The Dark Elves are widely considered to be one of the strongest races in Total War Warhammer, but maximising their potential lies in the utility of their heroes and understanding how to acquire the followers that you can attach to them. Welcome to Elven Plot Armor, and this is the Dark Elf Hero Mastery Guide, where we will explore all the optimal uses and strategies to dominate on Legendary. If you're new to Dark Elves, or even just a bit rusty, I recommend first seeing my race overview mastery, which will just get you primed and ready to make the most out of this guide. The Dark Elves are a mixed bag when it comes to their heroes. Some are good on the battlefield, some are much better served off it, but one hero that is great at both is the Master. The Dark Elf answer to the High Elf Noble, but instead of owning nice things, he owns nice people. Rocking a shield and spear, this is one of your best line holding options, and he can check enemy heroes before they harass your crossbowmen. The Dark Elves are renowned for having a lack of defensive infantry once they pass the early tiers, and this guy can fill that gap great, making him one of the best line holders even into the late game. It's worth noting that he synergizes great then with their best non-legendary hero, the Sorceress, who won't be involved in any melee anytime soon, so quickly leveling him through battles will also allow you to unlock some of the best followers in the entire game, such as Overseer and Slaver. Just be aware that you need to have the Broken by the Lash research unlocked before you can get Overseer followers, and remember, unequip the follower from the hero out in the field and then reallocate it to someone who is inside one of your worker provinces where it can generate you wealth. And yes, because slave income is a factor of local income, any boost to income will result in more slave revenue. If your master is going to be leading the battlefield, your first priority must absolutely be anything to increase their resistances and melee defense to make them effective at holding the line. Their unique skill, weakness, or Pord assists in this, and they can also unlock a martial name of power. Typically, the martial names of power are the worst of the bunch, but they are pretty darn good when you can put them on a massed hero like this. And just like the other two types of name of power, 4 of 6 are going to give you a good result. They have several mount options, the most suitable being the Cold One Chariot, but even then I would recommend not even putting them on a mount at all. The Dark Elves have no shortage of amazing flanking units, but what they are short on is good line holders, and the Master does a great job at this, so honestly keeping him on foot, max out those defensive stats and allow your archers to do your damage in true Elven fashion. But whatever the role for the Master, you cannot overlook Stimulate Growth, which can be maxed to plus 30. To give context to that, that's the same as a tier 2 growth building, and it's especially useful for the masters that you'll have garrisoned in your worker provinces. And you'll likely have between 2 and 8 of these guys in your worker province because of the level 6 skill Sycophantic Schema, which gives plus 2 public order and most importantly, minus 10% slave decline rate. Through masters, you are able to get your slave decline rate down to 0. As explained in the Race Mastery, you can get it to 80% through other means being buildings, Malekith skills, and research, but the other 20% needs to be negated by Masters, but Masters will also reduce your slave decline well before you get access to these buildings, so I can't stress enough how important this is, and takes the pressure off you having to acquire new slaves to keep your economy going. And by the late game, you'll have several full provinces with 100% capacity that never decline. By the time they reach level 40, you'll have enough skill points to make them great in your workers province as well as on the front line, so most will probably end up looking relatively the same. But the big difference is the character trait, and let's just be clear, they are nowhere near as good as the High Elf options. Now, basically all of the choices for all but the Sorceress are relatively the same, so the advice I give here for traits, just simply transpose it to all the other melee lords, and the only ones that really stand out are if you have a scout, strategist will give them 5% extra movement range, and the ones that increase their defensive capabilities, such as tough, strong, and vicious. Cunning gives a very nice 10% to ambush success, but the most enticing is disciplined, which gives plus 4 melee attack to your entire army, and yes, these do stack. Lastly, your cap of masters is increased by a level 2 barracks. While you'll need a few masters, you don't actually need that many. You only need between 2 and 8 in your major slaving province, and you just maybe need a few in your armies to help you get the chance to get more followers and hold your lines if you so choose. The most effective way to get a level 7 master, which means you can hire them with Sycophantic Schema and use them for your economy, is to have a nearby 3 settlement province and in 3 separate settlements build a tier 2 barracks. This stacks the +2 recruitment rank to give you a level 7 master, which means you can hire them and give them Sycophantic Schema right out of the gate and then place them in your nearby province. For example, in the Road of Skulls neighbouring Nagarond, just build 3 barracks here and then send them over to help set your slave decline rate to 0. Now back on the battlefield, the Sorceress is doubtlessly the strongest hero, and pretty much the strongest anything the Dark Elves can field. This one-woman army can take fire as a preference, with Shadow as a solid second. The unique school of magic Dark is probably on par with High Magic with some useful abilities, but they just perform better on your legendary lords because they simply lack the destructive power of the other lords. Always put her on a horse at level 7 and then upgrade to that Dark Pegasus at level 16. Now this hero can make great use of the Flying Pegasus. Its small nimble frame can dart around and allow you to rain down pain at will. Now, they're not that pivotal off the campaign map, and they can temporarily leave their army to block an enemy army, which you won't really use that often if you're using ambush stands, but it can be useful to pin down beastmen. Because their cap is increased from a tier 3 building, you'll be building this structure everywhere and you'll have excess sorcerers for days. Given how much Dark Elf power is behind research, their still research ability is far more useful for this faction than many other factions that have access to it, particularly the crossbow technology that power up your shades, and the economic enslaving buffs. I know, for many races, it is a cut and dry rule, keep your casters on the battlefield because they're so destructive, but given the capacity increases at just a tier 3 structure, you will have excess sorceresses for days, to the point you could even use them as scouts. Now, why would you use them as scouts? Well, there's some laws of magic that are generally less desirable, or maybe you're not familiar with them, but this particular sorceress might have the knowledgeable trait, the single strongest trait in the entire faction. Every sorceress with this trait gives +5 winds of magic to every single army, and this stacks. So yes, if you have 10 sorceress wandering around with this perk, you get extra winds of magic to use in any battle faction-wide. For this reason, even if you see a sorceress with an undesirable law of magic, you should hire her just for this trait. You can very easily increase your sorceress cap, but this trait is quite rare, so pounce on it when you see it. It pays off, and this is the difference between Dark Elves and High Elves. While the Dark Elves lack the defensive magic, their ability to field many casters with an absolute boatload of winds of magic means they overall have more destructive potential and reach as an offensive casting race. She also increases local public order and can help search for those amazing magical weapons after battle. Overall, she is an S tier unit, very powerful, easy to get, and there is no reason each of your armies should not have one. The Shrine of Cain is an excellent structure that you should have in every one of your provincial capitals. Not only does it help stamp out the ever-present corruption, it also increases the recruitment capacity of 2 hero types. So let's talk about the breadwinner here first, the Cainite Assassin. In this game, hybrid ranged characters typically don't stand out too well on the battlefield, and this plays very true to the Cainite Assassin. You really need to invest heavily in them to make them function in combat, and they can work as a serviceable line holder, but at level 10, send them home to your worker province and then just hire another. Why? Well, at level 10, they can max their increase slave income skill, boosting income by 10%. The result of this is one of the most efficient ways of compounding your slave revenue on top of itself and making your economy go gangbusters. And this stacks for every single Cainite Assassin with this ability. As your frontiers expand away from your worker province, it's going to become less practical to train up assassins to send back. It's not possible to recruit assassins at level 10, but you can hire them at level 5 by maxing your Shrine of Cain building to tier 4. From here, to get them to level 10, you're either going to have to do agent actions against revolts, throw several in an army and keep on fighting revolts, or simply sit around and wait for them to naturally get there. If you're looking to cheese particularly hard, you can put a pile of them inside a single army and then sack spam. Sacking also provides a 30% chance to get the excellent High Elf Slave Follower, which you can then equip on one of your assassins back home. Having an army with lots of characters in it also increases your chance by each character of landing the Envoy Follower, which gives +10 diplomatic relations to all factions. The way this is acquired is by declaring war and then ranking up on the same turn. i.e. have a stack full of heroes ready to pounce on an enemy when you declare war. Each character that ranks up has an 8% chance of acquiring this excellent follower. And if you have the Broken by the Lash research unlocked, you also have a 7% chance to get Overseer, which helps capture extra casualties but also works back in your worker provinces by increasing income from all buildings by 10%. Slaver is their greatest follower, providing a faction-wide buff to all slave revenue. You'll come across some battles where the number of captives and the ransom are both minuscule. In this case, execute the captives for a 5% chance to land this follower. This follower also comes up occasionally when you occupy or raise settlements. And just another reminder, when you do unlock these followers, unequip them straight away and put them back on your boys back home. The heroes stationed in your provinces are quite likely to earn extra followers which boost public order. There are several types of these and they're generally contingent on the type of structures in said province, but you will generate a lot of these, and for these ones it can be a good idea to send these out to the ones on the frontier and put them on the heroes in an army that might be doing some peacekeeping, or in your second workers province to ensure that public order stays stable. Finally, it might stand you to know that the Canine Assassins are very good at conducting assassinations. While this is a largely unnecessary ability, it is somewhat fun and it's a satisfying way to get those 10 levels should you choose to roleplay to get them. They are very good at doing this, but it's also very hard to overlook the fact you can raise them at level 5 and instead instantly boost your worker income by 5%. Last and honestly least is the Death Hag, and you'll have plenty of these because you'll want a Shrine of Cain in all of your capitals to boost your assassins while dealing with the corruption. Speaking of corruption, Death Hags can reduce this locally, and this is actually a worthy ability because you deal with plenty of it. And other than being able to hold some followers that increase local revenue, she really doesn't have much more utility here. But on the battlefield, she serves as a good offensive infantry in an army with no shortage of offensive units. And she's only passable at holding the line, but my god, make sure you prioritize those resistances and melee defense because man is she squishy. Always put 3 points in replenishment because while you will have your captive increase, which also increases, you can honestly never have too much replenishment, so just go for it. Of course, hammer melee defense and those defensive stats as much as you can, and by the time you get your resistances up, she can be a more than passable line holder who can really punch back. Whether you decide to put her on her blood cauldron depends on the way you like to play. If you and your army are more defensively minded, you'll want to keep her on foot to hold the line. However, if you're excellent with your micro, you can do some amazing things with the Blood Cauldron, which is effectively a sadistic chariot with a few nice abilities thrown in. Just consider if it's right to use it because man, this thing is big and soaks up a lot of arrow fire. In a roster with some very specialist heroes, the Death Hag doesn't really stand out that much. However, she brings enough to the table where she's worth bringing, can counter corruption, and always take her because she's another hero to give you the chance to get more of those amazing followers that will help make you rich. While the broad strokes of the Dark Elf economy and playstyle may seem very general and simple, but there is plenty of subtle nuance that will take you from being a good to an excellent Dark Elf player, and this generally comes hidden in the form of their heroes and the followers you equip to them. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. There's a ton of content on the channel for the High Elves as well. If you found this guide helpful, please consider giving the channel a like or a sub. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I answer everything. Catch you soon in the next video. This is Elven Plot Armor. Cheers for watching.